Hey, heyo, streamo. Heyo, streamo. Bebop skibbity up. You get the idea. We're gonna finish Weird Wednesday. We're not letting the Red Bucket win. We're not letting the Ultraterrestrials win. We're not letting the Ultraterrestrials win, kids. So we're gonna finish where we started, and then maybe Ratchet and Clank. Maybe we'll do some more clanking and ratcheting. Maybe we'll be a Ratchet and a Clanker. What do you think, green smoking alien? Will you give me the pancakes? Will you take me away to your fairyland? I'm being an asshole now, aren't I? So, yeah. It was really. I went to Walmart today, and that was just absolutely ape bananas weird. And it was an absolute mess in a zoo there because we're going to have like a big ass snowstorm this weekend, apparently. And it was not a fun experience at all. In fact, it was absolute insanity, and I did not care for it one bit. This is just a disclaimer. Why on Thursday though, Ted? This is now Wednesday. I wanted to finish this from last night. That's the thick, big, long, meaty stick of it all. The big meat stick. You know those just Slim Jim meat sticks. It's that. Okay, let's
But on March 26,
let's
15
begin.
miles
March
north of Sioux
26th,
City, Iowa,
Sioux City,
one of the
Iowa.
earliest mentions of the airship's hooks was recorded. Only this time,
Airship
the ship was
hooks.
not offering a tour of the skies, but seemed intent on kidnapping a farmer.
Is that background I wonder. I feel like I should do a little counter every time I mention that I think there's AI. Should I do that for a laugh? Should I do that for a laugh? Oh, by the way, this is I think I should re-mention this video just to give credit again. I'm sorry. I'm a professional. This is Ultra Terrestrials Conspiracies by Mr. Mythos. So thank you to them. So thank you to them. Also, I'm gonna admit that don't believe in ghosts, spirits, spooks, fairies, any of that bullshit. Nope. So I might come off as a little bit of an asshole. I feel like I need to say that just to be nice to people, because I don't want to shit on people's parade. So that's an AI image if I've ever seen one, chat. So that's two mentioned per hour. Will we reach 88 miles per hour? Perhaps. That's two. Let's keep it going.
Named Robert Hibbard. During the night,
Yep, that's
Hibbard was
another more
walking
AI slop, so that's three. Will we break the AI slop barrier? The sound barrier. The slop barrier, if you will. Will we be the sloppy
farmland when he
tobby?
saw a dark form with beaming lights headed toward him. He stared at it until it was directly above his head. Suddenly, the craft made a sharp turn and descended rapidly toward him.
Couldn't you just get a guy who
To the
paints
point
vans to do your
Hibbard
art
did
for
not
you?
notice a drag rope with a grapnel attached, which dangled
Can you
from
just
the
get
rear of
someone
the
who
car
paints
until
like
suddenly,
cool
as he
wizards
lifted
on
the rope
vans
again
and
from the
whatnot?
ground, it hooked itself firmly in his trousers and shot away again to the south. Had it risen to any considerable height, the result, Hibbard thinks, would have been disastrous. On the bank of the dry run, where the farmer finally met his escape, grows a small sapling. Hibbard passed near this obstruction in his flight, and as a last resort, grabbed it with both hands. Instantly, there was a sound of tearing cloth and the machine went on with a section of Hibbard's unmentionables, while Hibbard himself fell
Okay, for a
precipitously
second
into
there,
the
I thought
water.
he said
And quote,
suction.
there was a
That's
further
my fault, not
incident a
yours.
month after Hibbard's encounter that reported a similar rope and hook being thrown down from the
That's
ship,
my fault, not
though
yours.
this time its
That I thought he
function
said
appeared to be that of
suction.
an anchor. It was also apparently
That I thought he
accompanied
said
by a
suction.
sailor. The event occurred on April 26 in Merkel, Texas. Quote, some parties returning from church last night noticed a heavy object dragging along with
This counter's gonna break, I
until
swear.
in crossing the railroad, it caught on a rail. On looking up, they saw what they supposed was the airship. A light could be seen protruding from several windows, one bright light in front. After some 10 minutes, a man was seen descending the rope. He came near enough to be plainly seen. He wore a light blue sailor suit and was small in size. He stopped.
I mean,
when he
it's an
discovered
interesting
pillars of
concept to
anchor
think that we
cut
share
the
the
rope
Earth
below
with
him
other
and sailed
intelligent
off in a
beings
northeast direction.
that are far more ancient than us. That's a fascinating, like, science fiction concept.
At the blacksmith shop of Elliot and Miller.
That could be like a fascinating thing, a concept interesting.
Met with strong elements of absurdity. A small man in a stereotypical blue sailor suit climbing down a rope in the sky to cut off his airship anchor that had accidentally become hooked. So, why is there an account of the same thing in the Olia Imperialia, an obscure encyclopedic work written in Europe by Gervase of Tilbury in the 13th century?
Because it's a funny, goofy concept.
Around 1200 AD in Bristol, England, a rope and anchor plunged down from the clouds. It landed on the ground and dragged until it became caught on a mound of stones. A large crowd of churchgoers gathered and watched in awe as a sailor shimmied down the rope to try to free the anchor. According to the text, quote, when the sailor was about to disengage the anchor, he was seized by bystanders. He gasped in the hands of his captors like a man lost in a shipwreck, and died suffocated in the moisture of our thicker air. But the sailors overhead, surmising that their comrade had drowned, cut the anchor rope after having waited an hour and sailed away, leaving the anchor. End quote. According to the text, the giant anchor was later installed as fittings for the door of the church where the incident took place. There are nearly identical stories going back centuries before this. If you look up the airship of Clonmacnoise online, you'll find a trove of these historical anecdotes in medieval Irish, Scottish, and Old Norse sources. In some of these accounts, the sailor survives, either escaping on his own or through the mercy of the local bishop, who commands his people to let him go. The oldest records of such an occurrence are found in several sets of Irish annals, the year-by-year historical records of
Annals.
Ireland,
Irish
which
annals.
date it back to 743,
I'm being an asshole.
744, 748,
I'm
and
being a
749
dick.
AD.
I'm being a
Unknown
douche.
whether these all describe the same event or similar but separate occasions. Either way, the sailor and his anomalous anchor dropping from the sky were.
I do think the word anomalous is a fascinating and an interesting one. Like I said, this is an interesting idea. I feel like this is a good concept for like a science fiction story or a movie. This could be a fascinating like dive and thought experiment. I just don't know, you know.
These airships would use what was called sky anchors to slow the airship down or keep it in place. However, the first functional airship was invented in 1852, and the first hot air balloon was launched in 1783. So it's unknown what was being described in these medieval records. If these were UFOs constructed and operated by an advanced civilization, it seems unlikely that they'd even need anchors. Something doesn't add up, and obviously all these cases sound completely ridiculous until you put them together. We need to return to the year 1897, because the airship mystery is not yet over.
Oh boy, you don't need the word psyop for everything, friend.
On April 15th, the mystery airship was seen above Appleton, Wisconsin. The following day, a farmer named Andy...
What if the, ultra-terrestrials just like whimsy? Have you considered that, friend? What if they just like whimsy? What if they find it funny to have a giant anchor? Like, there isn't anything evil, they just literally think it's whimsical and funny. Like, what if we put a giant anchor? I like your thinking, Bill. Thank you, Bill. You're welcome, Bill. We are the Bills.
have demonstrated to
I'm
their
being an
entire
asshole now.
satisfaction that the ship is a thorough success. We have been able to attain a speed of 150 miles an hour and have risen to a height of 2,500 feet above sea level.
I mean,
The
it's not like,
Pegasus was
people
erected
couldn't
at a
build that.
secluded point 10 miles from Lafayette, Tennessee, and the various parts of the machine were
You mean
carried
Lafayette?
from Glasgow,
You
Kentucky to that
idiot.
point, being shipped from Chicago, Pittsburgh, and St. Louis. We have
San
made regular
Luis?
trips of 3 days each from Lafayette to
I live
Yukon,
near St.
and no
Louis.
harm has come to the Pegasus thus far. Within a month, our application for the patents for a parallel plane airship will be filed simultaneously at Washington and the European capitals. The ship is propelled by steam and is lighted by electricity and has a carrying power of 1,000 pounds. End quote.
I mean, they could just be
2
hyping up
days
their
later, on
airship
April
that didn't do
17th,
anything of
a
that,
pair of boys
There's
spotted a
that.
brown paper package high up in a tree in Chicago's Lincoln Park. They climbed up, brought it down, and unwrapped it, revealing a lunchbox. Inside was a half-eaten lunch, and attached to the lunchbox was an expensive engraved card with a gilded image of a boy standing on top of outstretched wings,
Okay.
with the words "airship" in gold. The inside of the card contained a handwritten message in blue pencil. Quote, dropped from the airship Saratoga, Friday, April 16th, 1897, 9:41 p.m. Due northwest, 2,000 feet, 61 north latitude, 33 longitude, descending, dense fog, drizzling spots, end quote. The card contained no names or other information. It was quickly dismissed as a hoax because the latitude and longitude figures would have placed the airship over Greenland. But newspapers still wings with the words "airship" in gold.
I want to make
The
sure I
inside of the
heard this
card
man
contained a
correctly. One
handwritten
moment.
message in blue pencil. Quote, dropped from the airship Saratoga, Friday, April 16th, 1897.
I want to make sure I heard this man
9:41
correctly.
p.m. Due northwest, 2,000 feet, 61 north latitude, 33 longitude, descending, dense fog, drizzling spots.
I want to make sure I heard this man correctly.
The card contained no names or other information. It was quickly dismissed as a hoax because the latitude and longitude figures would have placed the airship over Greenland. But newspapers still questioned why someone would have gone through such lengths for a prank. The high expense of printing a gilded card and placing it in such an
That
obscure location
doesn't make it impossible
was
to do
aside,
for a prank.
the
It
two
just
letters
be a
gave
goofy
different
prank.
name for the airship, the Pegasus and the Saratoga. Other details they gave were fishy as well, such as a claim that the airship was steam-powered, yet had a limited carry capacity of 1,000 pounds. You'd need a lot of water and wood to keep that going, but perhaps that helps make sense of why they kept landing for refills at random people's wells. That same day, April 17th, another message was discovered in Grand Rapids, Michigan. An employee of a furniture company named
Well,
C.T. Smith was headed
I
to
mean,
work
that
at
would make
6:15
logical
a.m.
sense, right?
when he accidentally stepped on a stiff wire 5 inches long. One end of the wire was fastened to an iron beer bottle opener, perhaps as a weight. On the other end, a letter was attached. The outside read, "From the airship travelers," and inside, he pulled out a piece of notepaper with a message handwritten in purple pencil. It was an emergency SOS. Quote, to whoever finds this, we are 2,500 feet above the level of the sea, headed north at this writing, testing the airship. Afraid we are lost. We are unable to control our engine. Please notify our people. Think we are somewhere over Michigan. April 16th, 1897, 9 p.m. End quote. The newspaper noted that in the previous night, multiple witnesses reported seeing the airship
Yep,
above the city
that sure
of
is a
Grand
thing that
Rapids.
happens in this universe.
Like the other two messages, no action was taken because authorities believed these were nothing but local pranks. In his book, John Keel put significant focus on re-examining these alleged hoaxes, which many agreed contained too many inconsistencies and errors to be authentic. He argued that their falsehood doesn't mean that they should be disregarded. On the contrary, he felt strongly that these hoaxes were deliberately engineered to discredit the UFO phenomenon of 1897, and that they succeeded in doing so. As Keel speculated, quote, Let us assume that an unknown group of well-organized individuals, some of them quite alien from us in appearance, speech, etc., found it expedient to conduct a large-scale survey of the Midwestern United States
Or,
in
here's a
1897
thought.
by air.
A
Because
goofy
no
prank was
aircraft
played upon
existed in
you.
the United States at that time, they knew they might attract undue attention, and attention was the one thing they did not want. So they had to devise a plan by which
Why
this
did they not want
invasion
it?
goes
Why are you
relatively
assuming that?
unnoticed, or at
Let's
least
say I
some
take you at your
progress.
premise. Why
In
do these
1897,
interdimensional
everyone
beings
had
not
at least
want your
heard
attention
of
if they're
lighter-than-air
goofing around in
craft,
goofy
whose
airships,
dirigibles had already been
giving
flown in
people
Europe, and
pancakes and having
pictures and
water?
drawings had appeared in American newspapers and magazines? So the obvious ploy for the people I call ultraterrestrials would be to construct a few craft that at least resembled dirigibles, and make sure that they were seen in several places by many people,
For
such as
what
Chicago.
reason?
These decoys would get a lot of publicity, and from then on, everything that anyone saw in the sky would be classified as the airship, even if it were shaped like a donut and had a big hole in the middle. Such a plan had to go further, however. Some kind of explanation for the mystery airship had to be tendered. This could be best done by staging deliberate landings in relatively remote places and contacting a few random individuals, telling them the secret invasion story and letting them spread the word. To add support to it, notes would be dropped occasionally confirming what the contactees were saying. To lend further confusion to the situation, some of the
Why?
contactees would be told ridiculous things
For what
that would
reason?
discredit not only them, but the whole
I'm
mystery.
taking you at your premise
From
now, and I would like
thinking
an
how to search for
explanation of your
consistency,
premise.
the ultra-terrestrial
Let us assume that the ultra-terrestrials exist. I'm taking you at your premise that beings from outside normal reality that we share the universe with, the world with, whatever you want to say. For what reason would they do this? Why? Now, if you said for a laugh, I might believe you because I've seen people fuck around with monkeys for a laugh and then thoroughly get their faces ripped off. So that's not beyond a logic or a reason. If you just give me like a reason, an idea of why, I'd be
were
following you on your
careful to
premise. I'm
sow
sorry, I'm being an asshole.
inconsistencies in their wake, and they staged some outrageous events, such as singing loudly as they flew over Farmersville, Texas on April 19th, or playing a phonograph or other instrument over Fontenelle, Iowa on April 12th. When these startled townspeople reported hearing an orchestra playing in the sky,
Now you
newspapers
could say
ripped deep
research. Okay,
ridicule
that's
on
a
the
thought.
story.
That is a
Was there an
reason. I've
airship or
seen
wasn't there?
people
Thousands
discuss
saw it
what
and became
animals think of
convinced,
our
but
research
millions read
efforts and
all
how
these
they might
conflicting tales and remained
think of
skeptical.
our
Obviously, to
ability to
the
research
uninformed
them.
reader of
That's an interesting
1897,
concept to
there was
have.
only one airship, and it was experimental. It was always breaking down somewhere. But what were those great multi-lighted forms hovering back and forth across the sky every night? Oh, just the airship. Where were they going? Where were they coming from? Well, they were built by a secret inventor in Nebraska, or Tennessee, or Iowa, or Boston. Take your pick. That inventor kept his secret well. He never filed for his patents. The great new invention was lost to humanity, and tinkerers like the Wright brothers and Count Zeppelin were obliged to perfect crude machines that were in no way as remarkable as the objects seen. End quote. This suspected tactic, in the way John Keel described it, is equivalent to an operation of psychological warfare. These are techniques that employ disinformation and misinformation to manipulate the target's emotions, beliefs, reasoning, and behavior. In real-life situations, a psychological operation is one of the
Yes, I know
hardest
what a
facets
psyop
to
is. I'm
defend
a
against,
leftist.
because it targets our own ability to recognize and judge its presence. The core goal of a psyop is to
Yes,
make
I'm.
us question the
I'm gonna be an
validity
asshole. I'm
of
gonna
our
stop now. I'm
beliefs,
gonna pump the
so we
brakes.
can understand why John Keel and Dr. Jacques Vallée recognized absurdity as one of the most dangerous aspects of the phenomenon, as it attacks the human need for reality to make sense. However,
Well,
if the
reality doesn't make
1896 and
some
1897
sense. Whatever,
mystery
man.
airship events were absurdist misinformation campaigns, this raises major questions as to the true nature of UFOs. What's the difference between a real UFO and a decoy? According to the data, studies, and strongest evidence we have on the subject, What can we be certain of? What is the extent of their powers, and in what forms and fashions have ultraterrestrials presented themselves to us in modern day?
That's always a
What does
thoughtful
absurdity
experiment.
look like in the 21st century? Barely over a century after the Great Airship Mystery, our society has advanced so incredibly far in scientific understanding and technology that the mere idea of an airship sounds outdated. And we've become desensitized with so many breakthroughs that new revelations, such as what we've seen in artificial intelligence, it just doesn't hit us with the same surprise and fascination. And to many people, it falls short of
I'm not a
sky
fan of
high
AI, I'm sorry.
expectations. More importantly, in the last 100 years, science has triumphed over past beliefs in such a profound way that much of our world has become reliant on the established scientific dogma to determine what our minds are open or closed to. This is ironic because scientific advancement comes from challenging fixed beliefs, but today, anything that presents a challenge to mainstream science is largely rejected or ignored. It's made our absurdity meter far more sensitive. Polls from 2023 show that a significant majority of Americans still do not believe that UFOs exist, despite the US government spending tens of millions of dollars every year researching UFOs, holding a congressional hearing on it, and officially authenticating and releasing multiple videos of unidentified crafts. These videos and their accompanying witness testimonies are
Yeah, that don't
the
make me
strongest
trust the United
evidence of the
States government
phenomenon.
as far as I can
However,
throw it,
in
buddy.
the lens of established scientific understanding, everything about them is insultingly absurd. The three most infamous videos of all those released are those of the so-called Tic Tac, filmed in 2004. The footage shows an object 44.6 feet long moving against the wind at speeds of up to 11,800 miles per hour and rotating in ways that grossly violate the known laws of physics. One of the
Well,
three
the
Tic Tac
problem is this
videos
is
was
just
leaked into
footage,
an
so you
online
could make
forum
it
in
rotate
2007,
against the
but it
laws of
was
physics.
mostly
And I'm
dismissed as a
yet
fake
again
and
arguing your
forgotten
premise
about
from
for
a
many
skeptic's
years.
point of view.
That was until the other two videos were released in 2017, and their authenticity was confirmed by both the US Navy and the Pentagon. Yet there are still quite a few people who
I don't want to
reject
be
the
Johnny
footage as
Shits in
evidence of
cereal, but here
anything
I am.
extraordinary. The primary witness to the event, Commander David Fravor, testified under oath during the U.S. congressional hearing on July 26, 2023. At one point, Congressman Nick Langworthy asked him the question, "Is it true that you saw, in your own words, a 40-foot flying tic-tac shaped object?" And Commander Fravor responded, quote, "That's correct. And for some people who don't know what a Tic Tac is, it's a giant flying propane tank." End quote. Not all anomalous vehicles take the form of giant flying propane tanks, though, nor black cigars
Propane
surrounded
and
by darting
propane
lights, or
accessories. Yeah,
traditional
I lit the
disc flying
propane on
saucers,
fire.
or ghostly
It's me,
airships
Hank
throwing anchors from the
Newcomb.
clouds.
Yeah.
In his book Operation Trojan Horse, John Keel described the mystery of the true form of UFOs and the
Yeah.
disturbing implications.
Yeah, it's
Quote,
me,
Project Blue
Hank
Book Report number
Newcomb.
14 tackled this problem. Air Force teams ran 434 unidentified reports through a computer, hoping to come up with a basic model. They ended up with 12 very different basic
Computer.
objects. From the thousands of reports compiled since then, it is obvious that there may be 1,200 or 12 million different types. The 12 objects described in report number 14 have rarely been seen since 1955. Our UFO catalog now contains flying cubes, triangles, hexagons, donuts, spheres, objects shaped like giant metal insects, and transparent flying jellyfish. We've got UFOs with wheels, with wings, with antennas, with pointed domes, flat domes.
We got UFOs coming down!
We've got objects of every color of the spectrum. We have just about everything except for a basic assembly line model that has appeared consistently in many years and in many places. In other words, we have thousands upon thousands of UFO sightings that force two unacceptable answers upon us. 1. All the witnesses were mistaken or lying. Or 2. Some tremendous unknown civilization is exerting an all-out effort to manufacture thousands of different types of UFOs and is sending all of them to our planet. I do not accept either one of these answers. While I have rarely heard
Well, I
two
mean, there are
independent
thousands of
sources
different makes
describe
and models
separate,
of
seemingly
car, so it
solid
wouldn't be
hard
beyond me,
objects
you
in the
know.
same terms, many of the descriptions of the luminous, flexible, soft objects are exactly the same. End quote. These soft UFOs, or soft objects as Keel describes, are one of the most common witness descriptions of UFOs, and certainly the ones most frequently photographed or recorded on video. Yet, most people have never heard of such a thing.
Hmm.
But we've probably all heard of the all too common complaint from UFO detractors and enthusiasts alike. Why can't anyone take a decent photo of these things? Why is the so-called visual evidence of UFOs always a smudge of blurry pixels? The very first
That has
photograph
always
of a
been a thing
UFO
that
was
bothers
taken in
me.
1883 by the Mexican astronomer Jose Bonilla, and no one can
Bonilla.
deny that the image is incredibly blurry. But despite its dubious appearance, numerous
Bonilla.
scientific experts have assessed its authenticity and consider Bonilla's photo to be a prime example of what a soft UFO looks like. This was very early photography, so the image itself is a low-quality ink photo, but it's not actually out of focus. Bonilla focused his lens on the soft UFO.
Bonilla.
While preparing his telescope for an astronomical study on August
I
12,
think that is a fun name to
1883,
say.
Jose Bonilla noticed several of these objects partially blocking the sun, and he spent the next 48 hours capturing 447 photographs of them. When these were publicly released 2 years later, Bonilla specified that the objects were indeed in focus, and he further
Oh,
explained
that's
that he could see
interesting.
through his much sharper telescope that the natural appearance of these objects was fuzzy and misty. He
Huh,
also
interesting,
described
really.
dark tails trailing behind the objects as they moved around. John Keel found himself very troubled by this issue. The fact that the soft UFOs have been reported and described in the very same way across the world, which is in stark opposition to the remarkably inconsistent 12 million plus forms of hard UFOs that have been recorded. Keel
Well,
speculated on
let's
what
just
might
suggest that
possibly
those 12
explain them,
million is a
or
number
some
that's
chilling
real, but
implications.
I'm being an
Quote,
asshole yet
we
again.
must assume that UFOs come in myriad sizes and shapes, or no real shapes at all. This leads us to the old psychological warfare gambit once more. If the phenomenon has built-in
This premise
discrepancies,
feels a
then no
little
one will take it
faulty
seriously.
to me.
I think that some hard
They're
objects
assuming
definitely exist
psychological
as
warfare, and it
temporary
seems like they're working from
transmogrifications.
that
They
premise
are
instead of
disc-shaped and
trying to work
cigar-shaped.
towards that
They
premise.
leave indentations in the ground when they land. Witnesses have touched them and have even been
Like,
inside
I'm
of them.
willing to accept the
If they
idea
are a
that there are
product of a
things
superior
beyond
intelligence with an advanced
normal
technology,
reality
they
because,
seem to be suffering from faulty workmanship.
try to explain a
Since
microbe to a person
1896,
who doesn't
there have
have a
been hundreds of reports in which lone
microscope,
witnesses have
like that.
stumbled onto grounded hard
It's sort of
objects
like that.
being
I
repaired
just
by
may
their
not have the
pilots.
equipment to
In flight, they have an
recognize that, or
astounding
even the
habit of losing
mathematical
pieces of
knowledge to
metal.
prove it.
They seem to be ill-made, always falling apart, frequently exploding in midair. There are so many of these incidents that we must wonder if they aren't really deliberate. Maybe they're meant to foster the belief that the objects are real and mechanical. Decoys, just as the mystery airships and ghost planes of yesteryear may have been decoys to cover the activities of the multitudinous soft objects. My real concern is with these soft objects. They hold one of the keys to the mystery. There are countless sightings of objects that change size and shape in front of the viewers, or split into several smaller objects, each going off in a different direction. In some cases, this process was reversed. Over and over again,
There's a book
witnesses have
called
told me
Flatland
that
that is a fascinating read about
I
how
don't think that thing I saw was mechanical at
the
all.
premise is basically
I
a,
got the
a
distinct
two-dimensional
impression that it was alive. End
and a
quote.
one-dimensional,
The
person
1955
encounter each
publication
other, and it's a
called
very
Ruger's
fascinating
Special Report
read.
Number 14 was widely
And how a
rejected by the
two-dimensional
UFO
person really
community when it
couldn't
first came out
conceive of a
until
third
its
dimension.
final results
It's a
sparked
fascinating
reversals.
book, and I should really
It
sit
was,
down
in
and
fact,
read
a
more of it.
breakthrough, though, as the most extensive
know,
quantitative study performed on
I
the
should really
subject.
try to read and,
The ultimate conclusion was
Flatland. It's a
that
fascinating
UFOs
concept.
showed no evidence of extraterrestrial origin, nor any evidence of any advanced technology. As much as this sounds like typical government denial, subsequent studies were performed by other researchers who arrived at the very same results. They used technical UFO data to evaluate two hypotheses separately. the extraterrestrial
I mean, I would like
hypothesis
to
and
see
the
these
advanced
data
technology
sets.
hypothesis. For either one of these two to be proven and accepted, the hypothesis would need to provide a sensible explanation for the data. The problem was that the available data on UFOs did not support any connection to either one. First off, the evidence for an extraterrestrial UFO origin wasn't just lacking, there was none. Moreover, the behavior of UFOs consistently broke every law of physics. They left no heat trails and showed no means of propulsion, while at the same time zipping around at impossible speeds. Radar has recorded UFOs accelerating from 0 miles per hour to 1,000, even 10,000 miles per hour in the blink of an eye, while producing no sonic boom. Other records show that UFOs have the ability to shapeshift in size or form, or split apart and come back together as a single object. And of course, they're known to appear out of nowhere and disappear in an instant. All of this data points far more to the likelihood that UFOs are ghosts, as opposed to the machinations of advanced technology.
Ghosts.
There's nothing to
Spirits.
suggest that
Spooky
UFOs
ghost
are
bullshit.
composed of dark
Oh.
matter. UFOs seem separate from our dimension, even though they materialize here, because everything they do defies the foundations of our scientific understanding, like literal magic. It would then follow that UFOs are in the same paraphysical bucket as ghosts, fairies, demons, and angels. So maybe it makes sense to believe the Pentagon, as shady as they might be sometimes, when they announced in April 2023 that their own study on 650 UFO cases reached the same conclusion: no evidence of extraterrestrial activity or off-world technology. With over 100 billion planets in our galaxy and some 2 trillion galaxies in the observable universe, it would be
Yes,
silly
the
to
Fermi
dismiss the
paradox.
possibility and likelihood that at least a small number of UFOs sighted are extraterrestrial in origin. And it's possible that our governments have found evidence of this and are not disclosing it. But as for the evidence we do have, credible evidence backed by technical records, witness testimonies, and government studies alike, of objects in our atmosphere that can apparently distort reality itself and manipulate time, space, and solid matter, that's a bit beyond our comprehension. But the ultra-terrestrial hypothesis provides some means to explain it. It
I
ties back to
I'm
the strange world of the occult, where one of the core beliefs shared
I
between mystics, psychics, religious practitioners, and
find this
quantum
premise to be
physicists alike
silly.
is the concept that what we see and experience in our normal reality is far from the full extent of reality itself.
Well, yes, that's
Our
just
senses
reality. I
determine
mean,
how
I
we
can't
perceive
see
reality,
microbes, but
the
I
world
know
we
they
can hear,
exist, kind of
touch,
thing.
taste, smell, and see. In paranormal literature, dogs are thought to be able to sense ghosts, barking or whimpering at invisible entities haunting dark corners. Scientifically speaking, dogs have far stronger and more acute sensory capabilities than humans. Many other terrestrial species have us beat to an even more extreme degree, such as the mantis shrimp, who can detect ultraviolet light, polarized light, and 4 times as many colors as we can. Human senses are tremendously limited, so we use advanced scientific instruments to sense reality further. But there are always limits. Ultraterrestrials may be denizens of Earth whose plane of reality exists in a higher dimension, vibrational frequency, or spiritual level compared to ours.
I
That
don't
would
buy
explain
the
why our
spiritual
senses and
bullshit, friend.
scientific
I'm sorry.
instruments remain blind to their realm and their existence, and why ultraterrestrials can enter our realm and
I
manipulate it
I
as
truly
beings
believe
of a
that if it
higher reality.
exists, it
Is
must
it really
exist
a
within
stretch to believe it?
reality and
If it's exactly
the
what our
laws of
ancestors
physics.
believed for thousands of years. Since the oldest historic records, humans in virtually every culture and geographic location have spoken of paraphysical entities as a fact. Gods, demigods, demons, angels, fairies, and ghosts are the ones most of us associate with ancient belief. But if this has been a consistent phenomenon, what about UFOs? Well, the visual form of an airborne object, what we associate as a UFO as opposed to any of these other supernatural entities, dates back much further than most people are aware of. The oldest written description of a UFO is thought to be the ancient Egyptian victory stele of Thutmose III, written around 1479 BC. It reads, quote, "There were 2 observers, A star fell, falling to their south. The like had not happened before. It struck them opposite to him. None could stand there. It went after them with fire in their faces. None of them offered resistance, and none looked back. They no longer had horses, which had bolted. End quote. This victory stele of Thutmose III predates the vast majority of the world's oldest references to flying thrones, spectral chariots, demigods, angels, and demons, such as those found in the Hebrew Bible. Though UFOs might be different in visual
You mean the
appearance than
Torah?
descriptions of these
It's
spiritual
not called
entities, they
it's called the
parallel them
Torah.
in obvious, striking ways. Since ancient times, they've been recorded in a
It's
seemingly
like calling the
endless
Quran
variety
the
of
Muslim
distinct
Bible.
forms,
I mean,
and
it's
they exhibit a
all the same
range of
dude
abilities
apparently,
far
but
beyond the known
I'm
limits
gonna
of our
be an
reality.
asshole now again.
Moreover, these beings didn't just fly around in the sky, but they interacted with humankind to a significant degree. In the victory stele of Thutmose III, the text goes on to state very clearly that the falling star UFO helped Thutmose III and his kingdom achieve victory over enemy forces. This shows
Okay,
direct
thought.
involvement
What
with
if it was
human
just a
affairs,
meteorite,
which
a
has
funny
been a
big rock
strong
from
and
outer
consistent
space?
trend throughout the very long history of documented UFO encounters. Regardless of what form they take, the ultraterrestrials seem to have a vested interest in the human species. Their
Yeah, they
interactions
knocked
haven't
over my
reached the
bucket.
level of obliterating our world, at least in this timeline, but it comes off as far more than just poking and prodding. They also seem to do a little trolling, some psychological warfare and mind games on a countrywide scale or to mere individuals with no obvious reason for doing so. And where there are UFOs that send us into a frenzy and demons that turn lives into living hells, there are also records of seemingly neutral beings like fairies, and good ones like the countless claims every year of angels saving people's lives, and holy apparitions healing wounds and curing grave illnesses. It seems very complicated. It's hard to make sense of their intentions. If ultra
Okay, I'm gonna get a little. I'm gonna get a little. The thing that angers me about the idea of gods, spirits, and monsters is the morality of it all. The idea that a higher being, a being that is beyond me, that lets the world be the way it is, to let people suffer, disgusts me. The morality of gods angers me. It's not like interfering with an animal. I guess it could be seen like that to a higher being, but I it I find it, this that premise to be utterly rage-inducing and disgusting. It is something that I've always found angry-inducing. My sense of justice won't let me
terrestrials are
do
beyond
this,
us,
and that is all I'm
why
going to
come down
say.
to us? Why go beyond just observation and actively interact with us? Why go through such extensive lengths to influence our society and history secretly? At the end, John Keel couldn't make sense of it either. Quote, perhaps they are trying to lead us into a new dark age of fear and superstition, or perhaps they will be guiding us upward to some unexpected destiny. I'm not a scientist, theologian, or philosopher. I'm only a reporter. My business is asking questions, not answering them. End quote. Whether or not you believe, the ultra-terrestrial hypothesis certainly raises serious questions and concerns itself, with these stranger details usually dismissed or used as counter-evidence to debunk the phenomenon. With all the talk these days on crash sites, recovered crafts and alien bodies, and reverse engineering anomalous technology, everyone asks for the physical evidence.
That
But
is a
on the
good
flip
point.
side, perhaps there's more to the UFO story than what we're seeing. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the secret earthly operations of ultraterrestrials, I've got an entire series investigating the mysteries of inner Earth, where there might yet be another ultra advanced civilization hiding on our planet. There's a link to my playlist at the end of this video and in the description below. Or if you're in the mood for a deep dive into the surprisingly interdimensional lore of angels.
I I do find these premises to be faulty at best. I'm sorry. I know I come at this from a skeptic, but it's a fascinating concept nonetheless because we can't 100% prove of bullshit like that. So it's like, wow, this premise is interesting from like a science fiction point of view. I don't think we're gonna do Ratchet and Clank today. It's been 40 minutes. I think that's good enough for a stream. I don't like talking about my opinions on religion or morality all that much because I don't think, you know, it's all that interesting. That's it. That's as much as I'm willing to go into. I really do not care for that. My streams are meant to be funny, and I don't take myself all that seriously, and that's why I'm trying to be open minded and understanding this person and where they're coming from in their premise because there's things that I believe that are silly and ridiculous and goofy. So I can't be Johnny come shit in cereal because I really do think that that's not kind or nice or anything like that. Probably Ratchet and Clank tomorrow. If not, then Saturday. So yeah, I am gonna say yeah. Goodbye. Goodbye, JoJo's. Goodbye. Goodbye, JoJo's. Goodbye.